Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Homestead in a Box. My name is Leah and I'm super thankful to have you. If you want to pause this and go grab you a cup of coffee, today we're just going to go tour my garden. I have a lot of things growing out there and I just want to show you all what I have growing to maybe inspire you to grow some of the same things that I'm growing. Whether it just be one pumpkin, one cucumber, one yellow squash. Nonetheless, I am still here to encourage you to maybe possibly grow at least one plant this year. So we're going to go tour my garden, talk a little bit about the plant starts, what I direct sowed, companion planting, a little bit of square foot gardening, a little bit of container gardening. We're just going to talk about gardening in general today. So, like I said, go grab you a cup of coffee and I'll meet you all out in the garden. Alright. Here's a good little overview of it. It's early this morning, but I have to record early or I have to deal with sun all day. So as you see when you come in, I have this pallet here. That's to trellis my pumpkins. I'll talk to you more about that. But here's just kind of a little low overview. Alright, let's get into it. I don't know if you can see me, but over here, this is where I have my squash planted. I have three yellow squash here. I have used these sticks just from the yard just to stake it up. I'm growing my squash vertically this year. If you don't, it kind of like sprawls out everywhere and it'll take over any space that you have. So in a lot of my raised garden beds in this garden, I'm using square foot gardening and companion plants pretty heavily. So I have these three squash, and then on the other side of them I have some bush beans growing because the beans will feed the squash. They're great, they're good companion plants. Over here I have some flowers. I'm always trying to incorporate flowers. You see here I have some marigolds in the ground. Last year I learned that marigolds are just a really great overall companion plant in the garden. And then I have a nasturtium up there. Down here I have some pumpkin and I'll show you those, but definitely utilize what you have out in your yard. These are just regular sticks, and so I'll use twine once my squash get a little bit bigger, and then I'll just tie them to this. So yellow squash you can generally direct sow in the ground, but here where I'm at in Oklahoma, I fight vine borers and squash bugs like no other. And squash bugs, I'll come out and I hand pick. A lot of my bug control is by hand picking. I hand pick the bugs off of my plants. But vine borers are they're hard to do that with. However, I read that if you start your squash and zucchini and you put them out once they've grown a little bit, the likelihood, well, they're more mature and they're bigger to be able to fight off any damage that a vine borer or a squash bug may cause to the plant. So these are my yellow squashes. Truth bomb, none of my zucchini came up that I started indoors. I don't know if I just didn't keep it moist enough because zucchini likes it moist. However, I started another tray of them yesterday, so I'm hopeful. But squash and zucchini are things that you can just easily direct sow into the ground. You do not have to buy plant starts. I'm going to encourage you not to buy the plant starts, and I'm going to encourage you just to put a seed in the ground. The reason mine are like this is because I started them early in my house. I did not buy these plant starts. I started these. It's much more affordable just to stick a seed in the ground from the package on something like this on these squashes. So let's check out my pumpkins and what I'm doing with them. Alright, so I have two pumpkins in this bed, probably about 18 to 20 inches away from the squash. There's definitely arguments about planting heavy feeders next to one another. One article will tell you it's a bad idea, one article will tell you it's a good idea. Sometimes, friends, you just got to experiment with it. The garden is an experiment every single year. But anyway, I have my pumpkins here, and then you see I have this pallet back here behind it because once my pumpkins grow up, I can step over in here. Try not to step in your garden, but if you need to, you can. So once my pumpkins grow up, again, I'll trellis them to this stick, and this one actually needs to move over some. I'll trellis them to the sticks, and then when they grow up, the vines will come up and they'll grow over this pallet. Pumpkins, again, are really viney, so if you don't control the vines, they're going to take over your garden. And as you see, this is a pretty short garden space in here, so that's why I'm utilizing this pallet. Got it for free from one of my friends. She was giving them away at her job, so we went and snatched some of them up. We utilize anything that we can free. We utilize anything from around the property. As you see, we have rocks to hold in my raised beds. All of these rocks came from our property. All of these rocks were moved by yours truly, okay? So anyway, always utilizing anything that we can, and I'm trying to make the most out of my garden space this year. So growing things vertically, like I said earlier, is pretty important to me. And so I'm going to use this free recycled pallet to vine up my pumpkins to kind of go over. Here before too long, my whole entire garden will be looking a little bit different once I change the fencing on it. You move down here, you can see I have a nasturtium there, and then I just took some chicken wire and tied it with twine to these T-posts, and I'm growing Chinese long noodle beans. They're just kind of a fun thing I'm growing, but they need a trellis and they're super light. Anything that you have super light, you can definitely make your own trellis out of, okay? Like I said, this is just chicken wire. You can see here it's super flimsy. I just took some T-posts to make my garden. I like my garden to look pretty, so I spray painted these. I kind of have like a teal color going. And then, like I said, this is just recycled chicken wire that we had laying around the house, and boom, I have a trellis. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know last year I used a lot of sticks as a trellis, and so this year I decided, well, I have more materials this year than what I had last year, so I'm able to do a little bit more. But I have a nasturtium planted down here because, again, nasturtiums are a great companion plant. They're a flower, and things like aphids, squash bugs, they're an edible flower, so your bugs will go and eat your nasturtium and hopefully leave your food alone. But I have some nasturtium growing here that will climb this as well, and then, like I said, I have some Chinese noodle beans in here. Alright, so these are just some potted plants that I have. I bought these little things here from the Dollar Tree, and I have put strawberries in them, and then I have just a gazania on the top, but these are great, okay? I was super excited to find those. And then over here in this one, let me kind of back up. This has all spinach in it. This is just spinach, and then again at the top I've stuck a little flower. Over here in this bed is my onion bed. They're looking great. They need to be fed. This sweet alyssum has been out here since January, February, and it looks amazing. Love it. My cabbages are bouncing back. If you follow along on social media, you know that my rooster and some hens came in here and had a snack in my cabbage. And while that was delicious for them, they kind of ruined my cabbage, but they are bouncing back. I am super thankful. Oklahoma Gardening Community, it's a Facebook group I am in on Facebook, and the people in there were super encouraging that my cabbages would be fine, and they are, so they're doing good. This is square foot gardening in this bed here, and the onions are working as a companion plant to the cabbage to keep away cabbage worms, things like that. Down here, kind of interesting, but plants are so weird when plants are just weird in general sometimes. So like cucumbers do not like cabbage, okay? But I have this trellis here. Let me step back so y'all can kind of see the whole trellis. Don't know. Let me kind of come over here. Okay, you see that trellis? That's a cattle panel trellis. Now back in the back, y'all see all that back there? That's where I'm putting my corn and my sunflower thing. I decided to double that. That's why there's still turkeys over here working, and the turkey coop looks funny because I lifted up the plastic on it to let them get some air through there yesterday. That way they can enjoy the nice weather. Okay, so anyway, that's a panel there. Back to my cucumbers. Cucumbers and cabbages do not grow well together, but cucumbers do grow well in containers. So I bought this last year, I bought this last year on sale from the dollar store. and I'm using it this year. I bought several of these last year. And so in here I have this cucumber. This is a Boston pickling cucumber, and I will trellis it up this, and then I'll be able to pick my cucumbers off of it. So this is planting things that don't quite get along with each other, but getting away with it, okay? Because it's in a pot, so I can plant them next to my cabbage. Win-win for me. All right, let's move over here to this garden bed. Back here, I have some strawberries in these little, again, Dollar Tree. Look at this. Y'all see this? If you have these in your yard, y'all, they're not good. These are called tent caterpillars, and they'll kill your trees. Anyway, so these are strawberries. Those are just Dollar Tree hanging baskets I used. My carrots that are surviving, I need to come in and thin them, and I'm actually going to add some more. Might be a little late to add some, but I don't know. I've got the extras to experiment with it. My peas are starting to look really good. I was getting super nervous about them, not knowing how they were going to do. Over here, look at this. It's already starting to wrap around. I'm so excited. This is a morning glory, and I've been wanting to grow morning glory for a few years, and finally I started my own seeds. So, and they need a trellis, so it's going to climb this trellis here. Over here in this bucket, again, on sale last year from the dollar store, we have some pygmy sunflowers in here. That's what it'll grow. They're just little short sunflowers. Anytime you can add flowers or something like that to your garden, I highly encourage it, because the pollinators will love you and you will love them when you get more food. So out here, I still have a lot of things that I haven't planted. I have a lot of gardening left to do. You can see over here, I have a ton of tomato starts I have not even put in the ground. I have starts over here, but we'll get to all those. First things first, let's look at this bed here. You see, again, I have sticks I've utilized from the yard. All right, all the way down. So let's move back to my carrots, and let me tell you why I planted my carrots in a raised bed versus a bag. Last year I grew my carrots wonderfully in bags. This year I was like, well, I want to try it in a raised bed. I'm growing my carrots down here because by the time I harvest my carrots, I will still have time to plant some okra down here in this bed. Okay, so that's why the carrots are in the bed. And over here you can see where I've already started with 2 okra plants here. This is okra. So this is kind of like, you know, when you take a crop out, I'm putting a crop back in. So once I harvest all of these carrots, I will come in and I will plant some more okra back here. I am going to try to sell a few things extra that I have in my garden this year. So having a few extra plants isn't bad. Okay, let's start on this side of this bed. Over here I have jalapenos, which is a not spicy jalapeno. It is a real thing. Last year people loved them at the farmer's market. And then again, bang, one of my marigolds. Y'all, I have some huge marigolds. I know they don't look like it right now, but my marigolds are like little bitty marigold trees. So if you have received any marigold seeds from me, plant them. I encourage you to plant them. Okay, so jalapenos, a marigold for bugs, okay. And then we've got bell peppers down here. All right, and then over here in the bell peppers, between these 2 rows, because I got something over here, I have some basil. Basil and marigolds together work as great companion plants. I didn't have any issues last year with my tomatoes, or really I didn't have any luck with my peppers at all, so this is going to be the first time. So bell peppers are here, separated by a marigold, and then jalapenos, and then the spicy jalapenos are down here on this end. So I kept some room between the jalapenos and the jalapenos, that way hopefully they don't cross-pollinate. Working our way around, you can see we've got some more flowers. I'm always going to plant flowers in my garden beds for the pollinators. That's some basil. All the basil down the middle is sweet basil. Moving over here, we have my blackberry bush, some more cabbages and garlic down here, purple cabbage, And then down here we have my blueberries. I think I'm gonna snatch one of these up. Look at that. I don't know if it'll zoom in. Ah! I'll come back and find that. Alright, from this side of the bed, same bed, different side. That's where the ochres are over there. You come up here, I have some more bell peppers. And then you come up a little bit more and I have some eggplant. Really love eggplant. My dad grew eggplant probably like longer than 4 years ago. Probably like 7 years ago now. And it was amazing. Love eggplant. So there's that bed. Alright, the sun's starting to fight against me this morning. So here's all my plant starts. My tomatoes all get in the ground. Some flowers. We've got some cucumbers over here. Some watermelons. Some nasturtiums. Some marigolds. Some cantaloupes. All those need to go on the ground. I can see a bug has been over here eating on my eggplants. My other eggplants. These are just kind of sunflower starts. Over here is my red romaine lettuce and my butter crunch and my garlic. It is looking wonderful. Super excited about how great that lettuce looks. And then over here, my radish bed. I harvested some radishes just the day before yesterday. However, I'll keep it real with y'all. I couldn't release that video because I had a booger in my nose. Last night I came out and I had me a little salad with my dinner, so you can see where I harvested some lettuce here and it's cut and come back again, so it'll just grow me some more lettuce. Pretty awesome, honestly. Like if you want to grow something that's just super easy, lettuce is super easy to grow and so affordable to grow. And then one of my peas is finally getting a flower on it. Look at it. Y'all, if you don't know this, but all your food has flowers. Excuse my blanket hanging on my tomato trellis, but my clothesline, I don't have one this year, and that blanket is a down feather blanket, so it has to not go in the dryer. But anyway, so this is my other side of my garden bed I utilized last year. This is where I will be growing the majority of my tomatoes, my cucumbers, my winter squashes, and I will also be planting some things at the bottoms of all of those because I am going to trellis all of them up. Like I said, my blanket's on here right now, but I use these cattle panels, as you can see back here. My husband just came in last year and he beat some T-posts in, hung me some cattle panels. They're a little bit high off of the ground, but I found that useful last year because my tomato plants grew all the way up to the very top. I did get tomatoes last year, just not enough to sell to anybody. From this panel down, I need to come in and weed eat. But from this panel here down is going to be my herb garden. I have some oregano that survived the winter. Herbs do survive the winter. Well, depending on the herbs. There we go. Depending on the herb, some of them will survive winter. My oregano survived beautifully. Let's go down here and check out my potatoes. As you see here, I have another long garden bed. Cucumbers and tomatoes will be up here. Now let's go check these things out. What? In trash bags? Yes. I'm growing my potatoes in trash bags and they're thriving. They look great. I'm going to mix some rabbit compost tea for them today and feed them, but look how great these look. 39-gallon trash baggies. Last year I grew my potatoes in feed sacks, so they did okay, they did great. This year I'm growing them in these trash bags, bigger trash bags than what last year. Garden Like a Viking, he has a YouTube channel. That's where I learned this from. I had some friends send me his video and they're growing their potatoes the same exact way. So potatoes in a trash bag. You don't have to have expensive, nice things to be able to grow food, friends. Alright, so that is the gist of my garden. A few things that I just want to kind of get out there and let you know. This is just from my personal experience. So here in Oklahoma, we have over 200 days to grow food. That's a really long grow season, okay? That means you can generally grow most of your crops twice, alright? So What that looks like for me is like coming back in May and sowing some more, starting some more tomatoes. That way I can have a fall crop of tomatoes, which means just basically like, in our world, most people just plant one garden, and then once that garden, they have a harvest off of that, they think, oh, that's the end of it. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. Like I said, in Oklahoma, we have a very, very long grow season. So succession planting is something that I'm implementing here. And what that looks like is like, so for instance, my yellow squashes, I started those from seed in the house. So about May, I will come in and I will direct sow some squash seeds, you know. It's April, yeah, about 3-4 weeks out, I'll come back in, and next to these squash, I will just put a seed next to them. That way, by the time this squash is done producing, the other one is coming up behind it, and I have double the amount of squash. That's considered succession sowing. So I'm utilizing that a lot here this year. In my garden, you see things are kind of tight and packed in closely. That is because I feed my garden. The packaging on the back is kind of like, you know, do this, but sometimes I do the opposite. Like I put my tomatoes closer together. A lot of my things I grow closer together so I can grow more of them in a smaller space, and because I feed them. And so what that looks like is I make a rabbit compost tea. I have a YouTube video over it. I am actually going to make another new and improved YouTube video over it with a lot more information that I've learned in the last year. So I will have another video of those out. So basically my rabbit manure, I utilize it. It's gold here on our farm, and it feeds everything. It feeds it all. So if you don't have a way to have an organic way to feed your plants, some people, I mean, don't shoot me out there, my other gardener friends, but you got to start where you are, you know what I mean? Not everybody has ton of rabbits out here. So Miracle-Gro, you know, I mean, I hate to say that, but it's the fact of it is, and that's the easiest thing for most people to get their hands on, is Miracle-Gro. I know people who use it on their garden and their gardens do great. Here at Homestead in a Box, we don't judge anybody. If you're growing food, grow the food. But we try to use as many organic practices as possible. Keep this in the back of your mind. You have to feed your plants if you want your plants to feed you. People will go and they'll buy a 5-gallon bucket and put a tomato plant in it and say, well, I only got 3 tomatoes. Well, that's because you didn't feed it. You know, I mean, you have to imagine that plant is absorbing all the nutrients in that bucket. Once it's absorbed all the nutrients out of the soil that's in that bucket, where's it pulling from? It's not, so it's not going to produce you any more food. So anyway, just a little bit of nerding out on the garden this morning. My garden is packed closer together because I do feed it on a pretty regular basis. Companion planting, if I just had to give you a couple plants to go start from seed, put in the ground. Last year I direct sowed a ton of marigolds. It works. You have plenty of time to direct sow things. I'm in several gardening groups on the internet and people are like, do I have time? Do I have time? It's April. You know, like my estimated last frost was 2 days ago. You know, the weather in the world nowadays is wild, okay? If you're a gardener, you're a weather journaler, and I journal the weather, and I knew that I was good to plant my garden because I knew last year everyone hollered the blackberry frost and we never had one. Anyway, so you have plenty of time. Even right now, if you wanted to start squash in a windowsill, you can. Cucumber in a windowsill, you can. But I wouldn't start them in a windowsill, friends. I would just direct sow them out in your garden. You can take a girlfriend of mine this morning. She said her cucumber wasn't doing all that great, and she thought about going and buying another one. I am going to encourage you all day, every day. Do not buy plant starts if you don't have to. Okay, especially when it comes to cucumber, squash, watermelon, corn, okra, beans, peas, radish, carrot. I mean, all of those things do best when they are just direct sown into the ground. a lot of your flowers are the exact same way. Like, I have better luck direct sowing my zinnias than I do starting them in the house. I don't know why, I just do. Sunflowers, I mean, a lot of those things can just be direct sown. If you haven't planted any flowers in your garden, I'm going to encourage you to go out and to buy a pack of sunflowers, and plant those sporadically, whether they be mammoth, Russian mammoths, pygmies, citrus, whatever kind. I mean, there's tons of different varieties of sunflowers out there. You need pollinators in your garden for food to form. Okay, a lot of your food in your garden, they grow flowers, okay, and then the bees and the pollinators come in and they pollinate that for you, and that's how fruit forms. If you don't have pollinators, fruit's not going to form unless you have breeds. Like, I'm growing a cucumber breed this year, my first time. It's a hybrid and it doesn't require pollinators, so I'm pretty excited about that. Mainly just for high production. You know, I'm going to be selling extra cucumbers this year for other people to learn how to can and to make their own pickles and things like that, and just to be able to offer a fresh food to other people. I am going to be selling a little bit of extra of my produce, and I will do a video about that. I've had several people ask me, like, how do you do that? And so honestly, it's been a learning experience for me. Last year was a complete epic fail, and so I'm hoping that this year is a little bit better, but I will make a video telling about what not to do, because I do know what not to do. Like, don't start 200 tomato seedlings in your house if you don't have a place to put them when they get this tall. Okay, and do not try to make a DIY greenhouse if you do not have the things to make it out of like a broken shade tent. You know, just don't do those things. But anyway, thank you all so much for coming hang out with me. I can't lie, I've only had half a cup of coffee this morning trying to beat the sun, so I'm gonna go back and get my coffee cup and enjoy the rest of my day. Thank you everyone again for being here. I'm sending you good vibes as always. Send some good vibes to somebody that you know. I'm gonna take a second here to say, if you don't follow us on social media, go check us out on social media. Again, sending you good vibes. Send some to somebody that you know, and it's gardening season. Videos are gonna start coming out more regularly. And thank you all so much for your support. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.